I've always been a pretty frugal person. Like, I've never even paid for my own haircut. But recently I've decided to just, kind of live. Maybe all these comments are right. I should just spend my money and enjoy my life. Okay, actually I didn't decide that, but I am actually trying to be less frugal, which sounds a little bit weird, but let me explain why. And at the end, I also want to share some things that I'm actively trying to spend more money on. Growing up, there were times where we didn't really have a lot. At one point, we were getting food from a food pantry. I started working in my family's business at the age of 11, doing office cleaning and stamped concrete, sometimes even a little younger than that. And that made me really value money, but also hate spending it because I knew I worked so hard for it. And as I learned about financial independence and that I could retire in my 20s or 30s, I got a lot more extreme with my frugal ways. Like when me and my wife got married, we were in full swing. My wife got her wedding dress from a thrift store for like $275, I think. Pretty much everything about the wedding was done on budget. The total cost was under a few $1,000s. The first year we were married, we were living in a small 1-bedroom apartment that we were fixing up while we were living in. We pretty much never went out to eat. We got all of our food at a discounted food store that actually supplies restaurants. Most of our clothes were from thrift stores, and let me tell you, it was actually a pretty good year. And that kind of helped us to realize that spending money doesn't really equate to happiness, and we can be frugal and we can still be happy. We can spend money and we can be happy. It's really a mindset. And after just a few years of living this way, I was able to leave my job. Meredith was able to leave her job. And I think we were able to do that at such an early age because of being extremely frugal. But before we get into some of the things that I'm actually starting to spend money on and why I'm trying to be less frugal, which sounds kind of weird, I want to point out that I'm still a pretty frugal person, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. If you look at a lot of successful people and self-made millionaires, they are very frugal people. They practice delayed gratification, and I think that's honestly a huge factor that will determine if or when you will escape the rat race, is if you can practice delayed gratification and not spend everything that you're making, because then it doesn't matter how much you make, you're always going to be caught in that cycle. And this is why I still make a lot of frugal decisions. Like, we get all of our daughter's clothes pretty much given to us from other people whose kids grew out of them, or from thrift stores for a few dollars, because honestly, she wears them a few times and then she grows out of them. I've also never gotten my hair cut professionally, and Meredith has learned to cut my hair, and I can cut hers a little bit, or she can cut her own. It's just something that I don't want to take the time and money to go somewhere to do it when I can do it a lot faster and for free at my house. And besides, with curly hair, it's pretty hard to mess up. We also do things like share subscriptions with other people. We have high deductible insurance because that saves us money every month. And we even do things like have cheaper phone plans. Like a couple months ago, we actually switched over to Mint Mobile. If you guys want to check them out, you can get your first 3 months for free, which is pretty sweet. And then it's pretty cheap every month. It works exactly like our last one. It's just cheaper. And that's kind of the point, is that we don't want to spend more money for stuff that really doesn't matter. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and getting any value out of it, it would mean a ton to me if you would subscribe. It's free, but it really helps out my channel. Time and money. I've always kind of seen money as time, but recently I've shifted what that means to me. See, before I used to think about, if I spend $20 on a shirt or going out to dinner and I earn $20 an hour, then I have to spend an hour of my life in order to buy this thing, and is that worth it to me? And I think that's a great mindset to have. I think that was really important and really helped me spend less money at the beginning, but as my income has scaled, I've tried to think about this in more areas of my life. See, I try to value my time, and I think you should probably try to value yours at $60 or $100 or $500 or $1,000 an hour. I think the higher the better. It really helps me enjoy my life more. And this is where actually being frugal makes less sense. Let me use my groceries as an example. Recently, we've started having our groceries delivered, not every single time, but occasionally. And that's because it actually saves us money. Let's say it takes 5 minutes to go through in the app and order some stuff, and then it costs $10 to have it delivered. For us, that's gonna actually save us money, because if I value my time at $60 an hour and I have to spend an hour going to the grocery store, buying stuff, waiting in line, I might impulse buy a few extra things when I'm walking around the aisles, and then I have to drive back, there's gas money. So that cost me $60 that I could have earned. But if I can spend 5 minutes and save all of that time and headache and just have it delivered, and it only costs $10, then pretty much I'm buying back an hour of my time for $10. And I will make that trade all day long. Maybe 5 years ago, that trade might not have been worth it because I didn't really have that much money. But as my income has scaled a little bit, I've been really focusing on trying to buy back time in my life. I've been really using this when it comes to my business because I realized that the main thing that makes me money in my business is actually talking to a camera. It's the one thing I can't outsource. It's the one thing I enjoy doing and that I'm actually good at is talking to a camera. I have very few skills. So if I can hire people to do pretty much the rest of the work for me, and maybe that frees up literally 30 hours out of my week, and I can spend 2 of those hours and make a second video, and that second video can pay for saving all that time, and then it's just a win-win for everybody. I get to work a lot less, I get to create jobs and help other people earn money. You guys get to get more content that is hopefully a better quality because they're way better at things like editing than I am, and I have more time to focus on making really great videos. I'm not as stressed about them. And this can be applied to most businesses. There's generally a few things, whether it's getting a new account or very specific things that actually earn you money, and the rest is kind of a distraction. So this is why I've actually been spending a lot more about the past year. It's to buy back my time, buy back a little bit of sanity. But the cool thing is it doesn't actually cost that much money. It's kind of just shifting my life around and working a little bit smarter instead of harder. The value principle. This really kicked off for me when we actually bought this house that we're living in right now. Until this, I've never actually paid for my housing. The first place we got was a multifamily. We lived in one unit. The other 2 covered our mortgage, taxes, and insurance. So we pretty much got to live there for free. And then the same thing at the next place. It's another triplex. We actually made a little bit of money while we were living there. And then this place was the first place that it's a 2-family. So after the rent comes in, it costs us about $1,200 a month to live here, which is way cheaper than anything else in our city, but it's still not free. And for me, this was a super scary thing to do, to actually commit to paying something every single month, because I really hate having monthly expenses. But we were pregnant at the time, and this is where I really started to kind of get this idea that it's okay to spend a little bit of money on yourself for things that add value to your life. And for us, this added a ton of value. It had an extra bedroom that I used as my office, and then eventually will become one of our kids' rooms. It has a beautiful space here where I can shoot my videos, and it's a nice, relaxing place to live. It's got a nice yard. It's actually in a safe neighborhood where people don't get shot in our back alley. However, this is where kind of my fight with frugal living kicks in, because even though we could afford to actually pay for a mortgage and have our own home and not have somebody living in the unit right next to us, it's really hard for me to make that step because it's going to cost between 50 and 75% more if we don't have somebody paying over half of our mortgage for us. And for me, that value is just not there right now. It will be eventually, but I think a lot of people are unwilling to be as frugal as we were, especially with our housing, which is generally your biggest expense, and take those 2 to 5 years of sacrificing living next to somebody else. And because they're unwilling to do that, they're also going to be caught more in the rat race, because that's such a huge determiner of how much you're able to save and in turn invest. All right, so this house came with a hot tub, and I love hot tubs, but it turns out it costs $100 a month to run it. So I just posted it on Craigslist. And this is where really our frugal mindset kind of comes into play. Some people will be like, you deserve it. It's okay to spend on yourself, which that's true. But I choose to look at it a different way, and that is the cost per use. When we first moved here, I used the hot tub, let's say 5 times a week, relatively often. And if you're using it 20 times and it's $5 per use, and that's not bad. I might pay $5 to use a hot tub. It was really nice, cool experience. But as we've moved on, we haven't used it as much, honestly. So we might use it once a week at this point. And if it costs $25 every time we use it, for me, that's just not worth it. Even if I can afford it, I don't think that's worth it. I wouldn't pay $25 in order to use this, no matter how much money I have. And that's why we just posted that on Craigslist. And this applies to so many different things in your lives, whether it's shoes or clothes or furniture or whatever it is. You have to think about the cost per use. And kind of my philosophy on this is it's okay to have expensive stuff, to have nice shirts, to have nice clothes, if you absolutely love them and you use them a ton. I'd rather have a dozen high quality shirts that I wear all the time for years than to have 50 cheaper shirts that I never wear. In fact, those cheaper shirts might actually be more expensive because I use them less if you think about the cost per use. And actually, this is where minimalism has really helped me out in kind of understanding needs versus wants. Most things I've bought in my life, I realized didn't really make me any happier. We've been happy when we live in a crappy small apartment in a rough part of town, and we're happy right now. We've been happy traveling, and we've been happy at home. We've been happy wearing nice clothes and happy wearing not as nice clothes. Like it's all a mindset. It doesn't really matter. It's all just stuff, right? But we have realized that there are a few things that excite us and really do add to our lives. So we're trying to shift away from all those things that don't really matter all that much to things that have improved our life a little bit. Like for me, I have the most fun in competing in some way and in chasing goals. So that's why eventually we will get a Tesla once we hit 500,000 subscribers, because that's been something that will not make us any happier. Let's be honest, a car is a car. It's not really going to make a difference. But for me, it's super fun to chase that goal for years now. I've been trying to get there. Feel free to subscribe if you want to help me out. It is free. But even if it's not a car, I've done the same thing with rings and random other stuff that's a lot cheaper. And it's this kind of idea of chasing stuff that once you actually buy something, it's not as fun as window shopping and trying it on and going to the register. And then as soon as you buy it, you're like, oh man. So I really just love this idea of chasing stuff. And that's something that we're trying to do a lot more. We're also trying to invest in experiences. We're traveling more. We're making sure that once a week we either go out to dinner or go out and do something fun, have a date day where I'm not really going to work, or we're going to do something even if it costs a little bit more money, where we used to go out like a couple times a year and now we're trying to do it once a week or at least once every other week. My wife bought me an Uni pizza oven for Christmas, which was hundreds of dollars, but we both love pizza. I'm gluten-free, so I can't get it most places. And we found out we can make sourdough pizzas in this thing. It is so fun. I've made so many of them. I enjoy that so much. And I've kind of realized recently that it's okay to spend money. I actually pulled my wife aside when we were traveling because she was picking out a few things as gifts for people. And I was like, maybe we shouldn't spend that. And it was like $20 total. And she didn't end up getting them. And I pulled her aside afterwards and I was like, please just like slap me across the face next time I do that, because I'm stuck in this frugal mindset, which has helped us so much, which is why I'm kind of stuck on it. But it's okay to bless other people. It's okay to, spend $20 once a month on yourself. And while we're trying not to get caught up in lifestyle inflation, we are also trying to shift where we can spend money on buying back time, on creating experiences, on blessing other people, on occasionally even just blessing ourselves. Like it's okay once a month to order one drink when you're going out to dinner, something that I haven't done in years. That's kind of the shift I'm trying to go through right now. Even with this, we are saving well over like 75% of our income because we don't have a car payment. Our housing is super low. We eat 97% of meals at home, and we really don't spend money on a lot of stuff so that we can spend money on the few things that are actually important. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. You can also check out Mint Mobile with the link down below.